President Biden now set to give that joint news conference with French President Emmanuel Macron ahead of tonight's state dinner. Let's go live to the White House.
Well, it's great to see you all today. President Macron and I have had a chance to spend some time together. We went to private dinner last night with our wives, and just came to tell you that we're leaving. But it's wonderful to have him here. We've had great conversations and always appreciate the opportunity to share ideas with you, Mr. President. And I especially enjoyed our time that Jill and I and Brigitte had last night in our visit. First time I've gone to dinner, a private dinner in Washington in a long, long time. And but I had the protection of the French government with me. But all kidding aside, France is one of our strongest partners, and historically, but one of our strongest partners and our most capable allies. And Emmanuel has also become a friend, in addition to being president of that great country. And we share the same values, and we remain the core common agenda that we address all challenges together. And occasionally we have some slight differences, but never in a fundamental way, so thus far, at least as long as I've been in Washington, and that's been more than a couple of years. Today, we reaffirm that France and the United States, together with all our allies, all our NATO allies and European Union and G7, stand as strong as ever against Russia's brutal war against Ukraine. We talked a lot about that in our bilateral meeting. And we'll continue to strong support to the people of Ukraine as they defend their homes and their families and their sovereignty and territorial integrity against Russian aggression, which has been incredibly brutal. I knew Russia was, but I didn't anticipate them being as brutal as they have been and what they've been doing. Many of the reporters in this room have been there themselves and covered from there, and they know what it's like. Today, we reaffirm that, as I said, we're going to stand together against this brutality. And we'll continue the strong support for the Ukrainian people as they defend their homes and their families and their nurseries, their hospitals, their sovereignty, their integrity, and against Russian aggression. And I want to thank you, Mr. President, for welcoming that the people of France have given to over 100,000 Ukrainian refugees. It's a mark of who you are as a people. And they're fleeing Putin's just barbarism. Putin thinks that he can crush the will of all those who oppose his imperial ambitions. But attacking civilian infrastructures in Ukraine, choking off energy to Europe, and to drive up prices, exacerbating the food crisis, that's hurting very vulnerable people, not just in Ukraine, but around the world. And he's not going to succeed. President Macron and I have resolved that we're going to continue working together to hold Russia accountable for their actions and to mitigate the global impacts of Putin's war on the rest of the world. The United States is helping Europe diversify away from Russian natural gas in the immediate term, and while accelerating our clean energy transitions, and we're going to continue working in close partnership with Europe as we move forward. I welcome the progress we've already made in many of these issues through the U.S.-EU Task Force on Energy Security. And today, we also committed to deepening cooperation between France and the United States on civil nuclear energy through our bilateral clean energy partnership. Around the world, France and the United States are working to strengthen stability and security. We share the vision, the same vision in the Indo-Pacific. We're looking for one Indo-Pacific that's free and open, prosperous and secure. And we're going to continue to strengthen our cooperation to defend core international principles in the Indo-Pacific, including freedom of navigation and freedom of overflight. We're working together to support the Middle East that is more integrated, peaceful, and prosperous. And we want to particularly thank President Macron for his efforts to help bring about the historic maritime boundaries agreement between Israel and Lebanon. We also stand with the people of Iran. And then the French and the United States are working together and hold accountable those responsible for the human rights abuses to counter Iran's support for Russia's war and to ensure that Iran does not ever acquire a nuclear weapon. And as we in the United States are looking forward to hosting the upcoming U.S.-African Leaders Summit President Macron and I understand Africa's influence and importance, and he has much to add. France has much to add. We're also going to deepen our engagement, listening to and working with our African partners to help strengthen the governance and security and economic opportunities across the continent and to tackle the global challenges of our time. Our partnership also extends to cooperating in outer space, from coordinating defenses from coordinating defense of our space activities to strengthening scientific efforts to monitor Earth's changing climate. And we had a detailed discussion of the Inflation Reduction Act. I know none of you are curious about that, but we did talk about that a good deal. The United States and Europe share the goal of making bold investments in clean energy to meet the challenges of the climate crisis and to build the industries of the future, including batteries and green hydrogen. We agreed to discuss practical steps to coordinate and align our approaches so that we can strengthen and secure the supply chains, manufacturing, and innovation on both sides of the Atlantic. We ask our teams to follow up on this part as ongoing U.S.-EU consultation continues, because we can work out some of the differences that exist. I'm confident. France and the United States are also leading efforts to strengthen the global health and global health security. President Macron visits falls on the World AIDS Day, and I want to particularly highlight our joint effort to reach our goal of ending the AIDS epidemic by 2030. That is a goal we set, a goal we're going to accomplish, and a goal we're sticking with. And to do it, we have all the tools we need. We just have to make finishing this fight a top priority for not just the two of us, but for other nations as well. And that's why I'm proud to take the baton from you, President Macron, and host the Global Fund's 7th Replenishment Conference this year, building on France's strong record of leadership. We've raised $15.7 billion with the United States and France as the two largest contributors to the Global Fund, and it's going to save millions, literally millions of lives. If I listed all the areas where cooperation between France and the United States were delivering meaningful progress, we'd be here until dinner time. So let me just close by highlighting our long-term investment to deepen the ties between our people, particularly the U.S.-French Fulbright program, which celebrates its 75th anniversary and has facilitated thousands of exchanges between our students, our educators, over the last decades. It's been critical to our relationship. It's a key part of ensuring that the future of this vital alliance remains strong and vibrant for generations to come. So, Emmanuel, thank you again for all that our nations are doing together in cooperation. My administration has built our foreign policy around the strength of our alliances, and France is the very heart of that commitment. So, merci, my friend, and I look forward to continuing to work with you. And as I used to say in the body I worked on a long time in the United States Senate, the floor is yours.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, dear Joe, thank you ever so much for these words that very much reflect the discussions we just had. But most importantly, thank you very much for your warm welcome. And indeed, together with my wife, Brigitte, we were very pleased to share this moment together with you and your spouse last night. And let me tell you how honored and moved we are, both my delegation and myself, to be here, invited by you on the occasion of this first state visit by your administration. And regarding this relationship, we said it this morning, and you just said it again, this heritage is based on life sacrifice, on so much. And I would like to say that over centuries, every time there was something vital at stake, we were there, one for the other, without any doubt, without any hesitation. And this is very much what should structure the rest of it. It is this spirit that is prevailing in the current circumstances since last February. And I did not repeat what President Biden perfectly described. And dear Joe, indeed, you very much describe what we're doing together in Ukraine. We clearly condemn this war immediately. We led all the diplomatic actions to condemn this war, the war crimes committed by Russia on the Ukrainian soil, and we support both the Ukrainian army that is resisting, the Ukrainian population resisting as well. And please allow me here to very much thank the United States of America for all the support provided, because this war is impacting the European soil even more directly, and you've chosen to invest so much to contribute to this joint effort. In this context, our discussion this morning was an opportunity to confirm the initiatives we will be taking once again in the coming weeks and months to keep supporting, to strengthen our support to the Ukrainian troops and to enable them to resist. We also agreed to continue to work together to support the Ukrainian people, to help them resist, because we can very well see today that the Russian war effort is very much targeting the civilian infrastructure, bringing even more violence to try and make the Ukrainian people desperate and make it impossible for them to survive this winter. This is the reason why we decided to organize on the 13th of December a conference to support Ukraine, and very much would like to thank you for the close cooperation in preparing for that event. And we're working in close cooperation with President Zelensky based on his 10-point plan that he proposed, and I also would like to take this opportunity to commend the efforts of President Zelensky to try and find a way, a path to peace while leading this heroic resistance they've been organizing for 10 months. We always agreed, help Ukraine resist, never give up on anything in the UN Charter, prevent any risk of escalation in this conflict, and make sure that when the time comes, on the basis of conditions to be set by Ukrainians themselves, help build peace. And I believe your positions being so clear, it is something important to us, because we're both working for sustainable peace. We also talked about the direct and indirect consequences of this war, including on food security and energy security for the entire planet. And our joint initiatives within the G20, the G7, very much go in that direction. And we also recall this morning all of that, all we're doing to try and help all countries to weather the consequences of the conflict on their economies. This morning, we also had an excellent discussion on the IRA and the recent pieces of legislation adopted by the American administration. And like President Biden just said, we agreed to resynchronize our approaches, our agendas, in order to invest in critical emerging industries, semiconductors, batteries, hydrogen, everything that is absolutely decisive. Because, as a matter of fact, we share the same vision and the same willingness. President Biden wishes to create more industrial jobs in the long run for his country, and to build a strong industry and secure your supplies. And this is very much our approach as well. And this is the reason why we task our teams to continue this work in close cooperation, coordination, to find solutions on the topics we identified. And of course, we will coordinate with all of the Europeans and with you to have an agenda that will only bring more jobs, industry jobs, in the United States as well as in Europe, and guarantee the strength and the resilience of our supply chains. And to do that with a strong integration. This European work is also the one we want to deliver on all of the issues on our agenda. And President, you just said it. What we would like to do as well is work on a number of topics of the future. And yesterday we had some sessions, working sessions, and our ministers and teams have been working as well, so that we could approve an agenda of hope and for the future. Like I said this morning, in the space industry, research, exploration, but as well the industry of the future. Civil nuclear industry, here again with some common research projects, in particular on the most advanced technique because I believe I can say on behalf of both of us that the civil nuclear industry is very much part of the energy mix in which we believe in, that will not only bring jobs, but enables us as well to have a secure supply and to meet our climate objectives. We also talked about the quantum issues with a number of stakeholders, innovation, and here as well our delegations are here to illustrate the work that is taking place so that we can deliver on that common agenda. Lastly, we also have all of our commitments on the major international challenges, which are very much, I would say, feeding our relationship as well. And I can only tell you once again how pleased we were with your choices that very much match your history and your campaign commitments. The fact that you're back on major international challenges such as health and climate, it is really a new deal, and we've been resisting for a number of years, and now we're being able to re-engage with you. And on this day of World AIDS Day as well, we are very much continuing to work to deliver by 2030. And I would like to say how much has been achieved by both our countries, which are major contributors to the Global Fund, to deal with, of course, eradicate AIDS, but also malaria and a number of other diseases for the benefit of the most fragile populations. And the same goes in our relationship when we're doing everything we can to deal with climate change and biodiversity. Of course, we want more innovation, we want to promote solutions on climate change, but we also very concretely acknowledge a number of initiatives in this respect on the occasion of this state visit. It is about finding a new financing means for the most fragile countries, emerging countries, to support them on both development and climate change. And in this respect, you will be playing a key role in the summit we intend to organize next summer to build a new partnership between the North and the South. And this is very much along the lines of providing more resources to the southern countries and as well reforming our main international financial institutions with the reform of the World Bank and a number of international existing tools. And regarding the biodiversity, we had this lunch yesterday with the relevant caucus. And here again, our willingness is to have an agenda which is extremely ambitious. In particular, we will be working together to prepare for the Forest Summit in Gabon, in Africa, at the end of the next semester. And this topic, of course, is very much at the heart of the ones you will be covering with the African countries coming to Washington in a few days. So here again, a strong convergence of views between us. And lastly, we will continue to work together to fight terrorism and to act for peace. And of course, my thoughts go to our soldiers who fell in Afghanistan, in the Middle East, in Africa over the past few years, to fight for the security of these regions of the world and of all countries. And here again, please allow me to say once again that we're committed within our international coalition in the Middle East through our military action, and we will continue to do so because this fight is not over yet, and it is important to remind all of our allies and partners that we need to continue to work to fight terrorism in the Middle East and the Near East. And I would like to thank you for all your very valuable support over the past few years for the fight against terror, including in the Sahel, in Africa. And that enabled us to have some very concrete results, including over the past few weeks. And we will continue to work together. I could carry on during the entire afternoon. We could talk about the Indo-Pacific, the way in particular we're reorganizing our presence in the Indian Ocean. To put things right, dear Joe, you elegantly thanked France for the role we played in the historical agreement between Israel and Lebanon. We did our utmost. to finalize the accord, but let me be honest, I think most of the work was yours. So I think it was a work of the utmost importance, and Lebanon is so dear to us, and they needed this accord in the context of everything that is still on the agenda for Lebanon in the coming weeks and months. Ladies and gentlemen, I very much meant to thank President Biden, because what he said, I can say it as well. You're not just a leader with whom we share many values, many battles. You're someone with whom we are having some very frank and respectful discussions on any topic. And you also became a friend. And so thank you ever so much for this warm welcome and for the importance of being able to spend some time together now. So important for our joint future. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Emmanuel. I began to refer to him privately as my closer. That deal with Lebanon and Israel, we did negotiate, but we needed a closer to get the job done, and you did it, and thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.